Well, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to Elemental Cartomancy and Tarathon 2021. How exciting is this? It's so lovely to see you all here. There's so many people here. Let's just kind of take a moment to let everyone make their way over from Becca's chat. Anyone who's already here can take a wee moment to get comfy, get relaxed, and get centered, because you all know that I'm going to have you reading cards, don't you? Um, Hope everyone's got a lovely cup already. I've got myself, I do have a cappuccino, but I've got my standard cup of Iron Brew, can of Iron Brew Extra here. So I'm cracking that open. Cheers, everyone. And here's to an amazing Tarathon 2021. So I'm not going to do my usual. I won't go through all of the names because, well, anyone who knows me will know that it'll probably take me about 40 minutes to do that with the amount of people that are here already. So I'm just going to say a collective hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited for this. Excited and nervous in equal measure. I'll be upfront with you, I'll be honest. I just want to take a wee moment to say thank you so much and well done to our lovely Becca, who was on before me. Becca talking about treasures in tarot, and the beautiful sentiment that her treasures are this community, which I thought was really sweet, really amazing. And even when she was talking about her treasures in terms of decks and stuff, still she was talking about decks that she had got gifted from people. So I thought it was an amazing session. Well done so much to Becca, and thank you so much. And we even heard all about the benefits of going to the toilet. We particularly heard a fair bit about Jen going to the toilet, which I'm sure Jen appreciated greatly. So thank you so much, and thank you to Kasha, who was before Becca, and of course, to our lovely Jen, who's organising all of this and who kicked it all off at 10 a.m. British summer time. Okie dokie. Now, I'm hoping that you can see me okay. I realised that, I mean, before I turned on all of these lights onto myself, I was a wee bit like, a silhouette. Basically, the lights coming in from behind me. So my lighting isn't the best, but we are going to switch to the table cam shortly for the majority of the session. So we'll be fine. The lighting on the table, I think, is okay. So you don't really need to see my ugly face. So my session's called Comparing the Big Three. So I thought I would just take a wee moment to explain the bare bones of what we're going to be doing. So I've got some questions that I've gathered from some of my lovely friends in the tarot community. Um, we're going to be doing 3-card pulls for those questions. Okay, now I know that might sound a bit boring. It might sound like what I always do, but there's a wee difference. So we're going to be pulling the 3 cards from the Rider-Waite-Smith, but then we're going to be comparing the same 3-card pull from the TDM, the Tarot de Marseille, and then the same 3 cards from the Thoth. And we're going to basically look and see what are the messages like across the 3 decks. Are they going to be the same? Are they going to be different? Are they going to be, roughly the same thing, but in a different voice and a different tone? Let's find out. Okay. So what I would say is this is going to be very much interactive. I'm wanting everyone to get involved. I want to hear all about what you think about the cards that are being pulled. It's you guys that are going to make this session, not just me. So don't be shy. Please feel free to get involved. There's obviously no wrong answers in tarot. I'm really interested to hear what you all think. Please tag me if there's comments that you want me to read out, that you're wanting to get my attention. The chat is moving so fast. I'm really not used to having this many people. In my lives, I've probably got about 100 more people here than what I'm used to. So if you could tag me at Elemental Cartomancy, so it shows up orange on my YouTube chat, or in capital letters, so that it pops out and I can see it. That would be perfect. Okay. So I've stolen a wee bit from our Jen. She does this during during Tarot Playdate on Sundays, where she has the questions scrolling along the bottom. So the first question is from the amazing Elaine from Tarot Tats and Tea with Elaine. And Elaine is actually one of our Tarothoners this year. She's going to be up in a couple of hours, I believe. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed to Elaine and stuff like that. Now, Elaine's question, and it's scrolling along the bottom here, I hope you can see it, is, will the detective story that I started writing ever be published? Okay, interesting one to kick off with. We do have a wee bit of a, a yes/no question, but for those of us who prefer to use the tarot, maybe a wee bit more open question, we can always say, let's look at the energy around Elaine's detective story being published and see what the cards have to say. Okay, so I'm shuffling my Universal Rider-Waite-Smith. And we're going to just do a normal 3-card pull from that. At this point, I'm going to switch over to the table camera because we don't want to forget that. Otherwise, this session could get really boring really fast. Hi, Justin. I've seen you. I've just seen you tagged me. Richie says he might be too shy. Highly doubt that, Richie. I've seen you in your man leggings or your Megans, so we all know that you're not too shy. Okay. Will the detective story that I started writing ever be published? Okay, so let's kick this off. So we're starting off with the 4 of Swords. We're coming into the 9 of Cups. And we're ending up with the Empress there. Okay, so let me just fiddle about with this so that they all fit on the page. My shaky hands aren't really making that any easier. So the 4 of Swords suggests, and you can kind of grasp this from the question, will the detective story ever be published? 4 of Swords there is suggesting that there might be some sort of delay. Okay, Elaine might need to take a wee rest. She might need to take some time away from the battle, and inverted commas, if you can still see me up in the corner here. So the battle being her endeavours to write this story. She might need to take some time away from that. Sometimes taking some time away, from the action does wonders for the mind, because we have the conscious mind, of course, but we also have the much more powerful unconscious mind. And this is where all of the magic happens when we're not involved and when we're not directly involved in what it is that we're doing. So when Elaine's not involved in writing her story, when she's not sitting with her pen in her hand and her bit of paper or her typewriter or her PC or however she's doing it, that's when all of the ideas, everything is bouncing about in Elaine's, her unconscious. Okay, her unconscious is unraveling things. It's working all sorts of wonders. And when Elaine finally does come back to that, when she decides, you know what, I'm going to dig that story out and I'm going to start again, or I'm going to keep going from where I left off. That is where we get that 9 of Cups. The unconscious is unworked at all, and we get that fulfillment from the 9 of Cups. This guy is. It's the cups. It's the point in the cups. So if you think about the progression of the cups cards, right? There's lots happening in them. We see the 2, or the couple, the 3, where they're having a party, etc., etc. The 9 of Cups is where this guy is satisfied. He's like, right, I don't actually need to work on this anymore. I'm going to sit. I've got my cups behind me. I've built my, my fortress of solitude, and I'm just going to enjoy. I'm going to revel in my own achievements. So some time away is going to do Elaine the world of good here, because once she comes back to it, she's going to be able to kind of just enjoy all of the amazing ideas that she's going to have up in her unconscious mind. She's going to be able to bring them forth, and then what better can we, of bringing ideas forth and creating and creativity can we get than our amazing Empress here? Our Empress, our third, well, I suppose fourth if you count the Fool, but Arcanum number 3. It's all about growth. It's all about creativity, creation. It's all about birthing, in inverted commas again, big on the bunnies here. Birthing something new. Bringing something new forth that previously was just a concept, was just an idea. I think I want to say a big fat yes to Elaine's yes/no question, because I think this sounds really positive, on the caveat that you do take some time away from the project and the idea when you need to. Okay, right. That is the Rider-Waite-Smith. Now, let me hear what you guys think. Give me all of your juicy comments, all of your readings from these cards. Let me see what you think. And whilst you are typing and chatting, I'm going to pull the cards from the next deck, which is the lovely TDM, the Tarot de Marseille. Okay. Now, I don't see... Okay, I see, yeah, Chris, different voice per deck to help. I don't see any more tags. I don't see capitals, so please do try and use capitals or tag me at Elemental Cartomancy. Excuse me. So Emmy says, I would read the Nine of Cups as advice to make sure to let other people read and give feedback before trying to publish it. It's her baby. It might benefit from objective eyes to make it as good as possible. I think that's definitely some good advice anyway, but some amazing advice that you've pulled from these cards there. So thanks very much, Emmy. Okay, whilst you guys are thinking, I'm gonna get to work and pulling out the next cards. I'm keeping my eye. So Elaine says, I'm really pleased with how you read that, Chris, as I am exactly at the timeout part at the moment. Right, okay. So enjoy that timeout part, Elaine, because it looks as though that's, it looks as though that's being encouraged here. Okay, right, well, keep your comments coming, guys. I'm going to move these up just now, and I'm going to bring in our Tarot de Marseille here. So same cards, like I said, we've got the Four of Swords, we've got the Nine of Cups, and we have the Empress, l'Impératrice on the end here. I'm using the Grimaud Ancien Tarot de Marseille. So yeah, let's see what we've got here. Okay, oh, I'm seeing some comments. So from Kristen Louise Tarot, we've got Four of Swords, 3 hung up, and three swords hung up and one at the ready. Keep doing research, outlining, even when not actually writing. The Nine of Cups, put your emotions on the shelf while receiving critiques. Okay, definitely, yeah, that's actually really good advice, I think. Yeah, I think it can be really hard sometimes. Maybe not so hard to ask for the feedback, but when the feedback starts coming in, sometimes we put those protective barriers up. And yeah, definitely, I think that's amazing advice. Lily Valley says all 3 cards show contemplation. I've almost read that as completion there. Contemplation. Sarah from SL Wyman's Rock and Writing. Hi, Sarah. You have said, I definitely agree with a bit of rest. Four of Swords always has that energy. The Nine of Cups says to me that if she can refill that emotional cup, it will shine through in the final work. Amazing. Regina, plot problems or submissions strategy solved during sleep/rest. The Nine of Cups plus Empress say yes. Empress also suggests when the time comes, be ready to check that the deal is solid. Right, okay, that's interesting. Justin complimenting me in my français, my French pronunciation there. Thank you, Justin. We've got a lovely Jamie from Wandering Mountain Bardic Path. She says, hello, my Chris. Hello, my Jamie, my lovely wee Jamie. Right, what do we think about the TDM then? So, like I say, it's the same cards. We've got the Four Swords. So we still have that idea of stabilizing the mind, that which you could interpret as rest, but stability of the mind isn't just about rest. Sometimes that actually involves work. If you're a bit frazzled, if things are a bit frantic, sometimes this stabilizing the mind, it involves some serious work to be done. Okay, and if we look in the middle here, we're seeing this. I was going to say rose there. I don't know what kind of flower that is. Someone can tell me in the chat. But we see some sort of beautiful flower. It's being protected right now. Okay, so something's being protected. That rest is maybe necessary in order to basically protect your project from what we see happening to these other flowers here, which is the heads being chopped off. Okay, so sometimes it's about waiting for the right time, waiting for those stars to align and waiting for the right time to look to publish your work. Okay. We've got the Nine of Cups coming in here, and something that I'm seeing here is, at first glance, things appear to be all segregated and boxed off. But if we actually look, and if anyone wants a close up of any of the cards, please just tell me. It's actually not quite the case here. We actually do see, that these cups can reach each other. They are connected. Okay, so this idea of connectedness, people were saying in the chat, connect with the people around about you, even if it might not seem as though they would have something to offer. Sometimes just putting that out there, can someone read this? Tell me what you think about this, give me your honest opinion. Sometimes asking someone who you might not expect to be able to give you anything back might just be the key. It might just be what you're looking for. Okay, and we've got our Mother Empress coming in at the end there. Now, the Empress, what I would say about the TDM Empress and how she differs from the Smith Waite. The Smith Waite is sitting in nature, she's sitting, very Demeter feels from this, goddess of nature type thing, whereas this is very regal. So she's a bad bitch. She's in control. She knows what she's doing, and she's controlling the outcome of that project. There ain't no one else who's sorting that out for her. She is totally in control. So you can take feedback, Elaine, okay? But at the end of the day, you have got this. You are in control, and you're amazing. You're an empress. Just go ahead and do it. Let me quickly check back on the chat to see what our TDM thoughts are. So the next one that I see with me tagged, we've got Kristen. I don't think I read this out. Empress is creative, but is about a new creation. Perhaps she will be published by a new publishing company. There's something to think about, Elaine. Four of Swords, time to maybe stop procrastinating. This is Antoinette, by the way. Time to stop procrastinating in order to complete the novel. Nine of Cups, birthing your project is your baby and takes patience and creativity to put into the world. Kristen says wrote one above. I think I've just caught it. Okay, so that's our TDM. Moving swiftly on, I'm going to pull out the cards from the Thoth. So let's see, we've got our Empress. Hoping you can see these okay. Let's get the good old Four of Swords out, and with the Thoth we start to introduce the Kabbalah, start to introduce some astrological associations. Now I'll be honest, I'm not an expert on these things. By no means am I an expert on these things, so I'm looking to you guys to kind of bring all this juicy knowledge in and really kind of just plump up the reading. And we had the Nine of Cups as well, didn't we? There we go, our Nine of Cups. Okie dokie, so what have we got here? So interesting right away is that both of these cards are Jupiter as the kind of a ruling planet. So in the Four of Swords, we've got Jupiter and Libra. Okay, so Libra is all about, it's a stable sign. Libra likes stability, it likes balance, it likes things to be in order. Okay, and the Four is all about the order, it's all about the stability, it's all about the balance and the achievement and whatnot. Okay, so this is a really good card for Libra, because and we see this Jupiter, this planet of good luck and expansion, and that Jupiter there. Okay, so bringing real positive feels. There seems to be real emphasis across all three readings on this aspect of rest, on what you're doing right now, Elaine, and just the benefits of doing that. When we move to the Nine of Cups, again, we've got Jupiter, but this time in Pisces. Okay, so you're going from very balanced, very kind of intellectual, very up in the mind, straight to the heart. You know, anyone that knows a Pisces knows that it's a very kind of a very emotional sign. Okay, so you've got the Jupiter, you've got the expansion. So it's basically like the expansion of your heart. You're putting your work into this project. You're pouring your heart onto those pages, and it's all just coming out. And the Empress, okay, and we see the Empress here. Again, I'll hold it up to where you can see her. So if you look at the direction she's facing right. She's looking off into the future. She's thinking about the things that she's creating and the potential that they have, you know. Beautiful, soft pastel colours in this, and associated to Venus, which is Venus, as I understand it, you know, it's about things like the, you know, I usually try and hesitate to use terms like masculine and feminine, but the more feminine side of things, the softer side of things, the more creative. You know, the Empress. I think we like to think of the, you know, masculine equals active and feminine equals passive. But if you think about the Empress, you know, she is an active person. She is creating. You know, so she's the more creative side, the more active side of the feminine archetype, if you want to put it that way. So definitely, you know, like stand out from the crowd. You know, don't sit in place and do what you feel is expected of you. This is your time to shine, and you make it what you know what you think it is, and do what you want to do. Didn't manage to express myself very well there, but I think I know. I think you know what I'm meaning. Okay, and again, looking back at the comments that have been tagged in, and what actually, whilst I'm doing that, what I'm going to do, so I can zoom out a bit and have all three hopefully in shot, more or less, sort of, kind of. You can kind of see them. So, Empress could be self-publishing, says Orshi. Scott, the Empress in the Marseille deck reminds me of the High Priestess in other decks. That's interesting. She does look a wee bit colder, perhaps, doesn't she? Which is something we do more associate with the High Priestess. I get it. Andy, the Wildflower, says it's interesting the difference when the person is looking or not looking at the cups and the Nine of Cups. Sarah agrees. If Elaine's tough enough to beat Cancer, she can do this. I think she'll own this. Absolutely 100% agree. Anyone can do this. Our Elaine can. Elle was concerned that I've got a trimmed greenie. I don't think so, Elle. But maybe if I ever meet you in person, you can inspect it for me and tell me. I don't think it's a greenie. I hope not. Lily Valley says the central card is like the focus point. The water flows a lot. Four of Swords like a pentagram of protection, and the Empress seems to be indifferent. Okay. I don't think it's. I don't think it's a greenie ale. Never noticed the astrological symbols on the Thoth. Wow. Yeah, the Thoth has. They're sometimes quite hard to make out, but it does have the astrological symbols. The Pisces comment hurt, Chris, says Justin. Well, it was meant with the best intentions. Eternal Cycles Tarot by Kate says, could it be self-publishing? So that's the second person that said about self-publishing. So that's really interesting. Quite a lot of people seem to be picking up on that. And we've got Sarah saying, I don't read Thoth as well, but the cards have that soft blue, which to me says that it's going to be important to really pull from emotions to make this work shine. Absolutely. Okay. So that is our Elaine's question. Now let me look at. Oh my goodness, it is 25 past already. So I've actually got 5 questions, but I've got, you know, I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough, but it looks as though I'm definitely going to have enough. Anyone who has submitted a question to me, I'll still do readings for your questions if you want. Just do it privately, or maybe in one of my next lives or something, we can look at them. So apologies to anyone I don't get to, but I did say, you know, I would rather have too many than not enough. So let's just pop these back. And let's move on to the next question. which is our lovely Hen Henry. Jen, Hen, Henry, Henrietta. She says, what is the best way forward for me? Okay. Oak Mama's asking, has the story been finished? It sounds like there needs to be a break to recenter and bring the work to completion. So just some comments still, still coming in regarding the lovely Elaine's reading there. And Elaine says, thank you so much, Chris and everyone. I really do appreciate this. You're so welcome. It is interesting to see what kind of different feels the three readings have, isn't it? Right, okay, now we're thinking about our lovely Jen's question. What is the best way forward for me now? We're looking for some nice cards for our lovely Jen. Let me just get back to the more zoomed in table. There we go, perfect. Okay, Jen, what's the best way forward for you? So it's interesting. I don't know if you saw it on the table, but I did have a jumper, which was the King of Pentacles, and I put it back in because I generally don't tend to pay attention to jumpers. But coming right out there, we've got the Page of Pentacles, we've got another Pentacles card there, we've got the 3, and then we're ending up on the King, which is the one that I put back in the deck. Oh, don't you just love tarot? Okay. So there's definitely a theme. A very earthy theme, I think. Page of Pentacles, it looks as though you're coming into something new, Jen. And it looks as though you're really kind of centered on this thing. Look at the page and how he looks, admirably at his pentacle. It's taken up his entire focus. And it's, the pages for me are the initiates. They're the new starts. They're the learners. It's about throwing yourself into something new. It's kind of like a similar energy to an ace, except here we're looking at, how a person acts and is in that situation. So we've got some definite new start vibes here with this page. So if you're maybe thinking about starting something new, Jen, I think that you should throw yourself into it because you're definitely getting some good. If we looked at the last card, which is the King, and the fact that he was jumping out, he's got loads to say to you. And this, from Page to King, to me would suggest that there's a promise of success there. You will be able to make your way all the way from the first court, from the Page to the King, to the fully established, socially responsible, eye on the bigger picture, the fully achieved King of Pentacles. In a lot of ways, you could look at him as being the very last tarot card. Most people, when you order your suits, the Pentacles comes last. I don't want to start a debate about what order the suits go in, Simon, but I certainly put the Pentacles last when I order the suit. So the King is like it's taking you from that beginning all the way right to the fully achieved end. And how do we do that? In the middle, we've got work, we've got collaborative work, but work to hands to the grind. We've got working hard on this thing, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. You're looking admirably at your pentacle right now. Okay, but there's going to be a lot of hard work involved in making yourself into that King and fully establishing yourself. There might be times when you, in the midst of all of this, you start looking at that pentacle and you're like, I wish I had thrown you away when I first found you because you are not fun anymore. Right? But it's about sticking with it. It's about working with the people around about you, working smart, working hard and working smart in order to, everyone's bringing something to the table that can put together your dream, which seems to be taking you into the fully established King of Pence. So this is going to be easy because I've got all the suits in front of me. So I just need my Pentacles pile here, or coins rather, because it's TDM. Let me see what kind of a comments we've got here. Okay, you waste the rest of your time if you go through all of my nicknames, Chris, says Jen. Absolutely true. So she's saying wowzers. Oak Mama says looks like a progression to me. Sarah says definite movement, definite forward movement, not without struggle, and definitely want to make sure to ask for help. Yes, but definitely will pay off. Yeah, that ask for help thing is key, isn't it? Um, so yeah, let's move because I'm conscious about time, and I think if we go fast in this one, I might be able to get a third one in, which would be cool. So we've got our three. In fact, no, we're going to move these right out of the shot. We've got our three of pentacles in the middle, and then our king in the end. Good old Roy de Dernier, Roi de Dernier, even, and our page. So Valet de Dernier is our page of coins, our three of coins, and our king of coins. So what's interesting here, if you look at the directions that the courts are facing, you want, to me, the page is looking left. So yeah, he's looking at his pentacles still. We still have this idea of the pure focus and determination, but the direction that he's facing is towards the left. And then if we look at the king, he's no longer, all of his focus is no longer on that pentacle. He's now looking towards the future. He's now looking to the right. So the page is looking at the pentacle and he's looking at the past to see how it's been done before. Okay, who else has done this thing that I want to do? How did they do it? How can I incorporate what they've done? And this is where the working together thing comes in. How can I incorporate what they've done and learn from it, but do it better? Do it better and ultimately be better. And the king, he's no longer, his focus isn't all on the pentacle anymore. He's now looking off to the future, because the king has got his eye on the bigger picture. He knows that it's not all about just concentrating on one small thing. He knows that he's a king. It's that social responsibility aspect of the courts, so he knows that he's got to have his eye on the future. He knows he's got to think about what's happening right now. What actions am I taking, and what consequences are they going to have? You know. So yeah, and the three in the middle there, I think same feels as what it has above. It's all about that working together, that collaboration and creation. Creation, creativity, growth. All of those kind of a Empress that we were talking about with the Empress, the number three. All of those things that are associated with that. You're going to be creating your kingdom. I think we can definitely see that. There's a definite promise of success. And I think the goal, the learnings to take is about taking your eye off of that pentacle and being able to look at the bigger picture and use that to push yourself forwards. Okay. Let's again have a wee check back in with the chat and see what we see. So I think Sarah, your comment was the last one I read. Brian, every time Elemental Cartomancy says bringing, I think he's saying Brian, and I'm like, what? What's happened? Am I on? Poor Brian, I'm sorry. But I mean, Brian, you've got a Scottish accent. Have you noticed that we've been, the two Scottish accents have been put together, Brian? What the Jen's just put us off in a wee corner, where we can just misbehave and not cause too much trouble. Have you noticed that? Okay, so you seem quite happy with that reading, Jen. That's good. I'm glad. Orshi says, great reading. I love listening to the Marseille interpretation. Okay. So if anyone's got any thoughts on what these mean, then please do, tag me, because that seems to be the way forward. That's what's working for everyone. Right, okay, let's move on and get our good old Thoth cards out. I will shift this about in a wee second just to let you kind of see them. Now this is interesting because, as we know, the Thoth courts differ quite starkly from the traditional court systems. Okay, so here we've got the Princess of Discs. We've got the Three of Discs, and we've got the Knight of Discs. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with the way the courts work and think that I've just pulled the wrong card, the Thoth courts, or sorry, not familiar with the Thoth. The Thoth courts go Princess, which is equivalent to Page, Prince equivalent to Knight, Queen equivalent to Queen, and the Knight is the final court, which is equivalent to the King. Okay, so a wee bit of a difference there. Okay, now princesses, are associated to the element of earth, and of course, so is the disc, the pentacle. That's so earth of earth. We're starting right down at the roots of it, right down at the seed. Not much malleability, not much movement is happening with the Princess of Discs. Okay, we're talking new energy, but we've not quite learned how to flap our wings yet. Okay. We've got the three of discs. We still get the idea of collaboration, creation here. We see this kind of the three discs are forming the corners of what appears to be a pyramid. We have Mars and, oh gosh, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it Mars and Capricorn, people? Um, I think that is Capricorn. I know the symbols in the Thoth deck aren't always really clear, but if someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, I'm thinking that the three of discs in Thoth is Mars and Capricorn. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I'm going to move on and talk about the Knight of Discs. So the Knights, I tend to associate kings and like Smithwaite and Marseille with the element of air. But more than air, it's about that social responsibility. It's about being able to kind of take a step back, take a calm step back without all of that knightly energy and just oversee the kingdom and call the shots to make sure that everything stays in line. Yes, it's Capricorn, says Scott. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So by contrast here, we have got the knight is in that kind of that final court position. Now, how does that affect it? Well, the knights and the Thoth are associated to fire. Okay, so we've got the final court being associated to that energetic fire. The knights are special in the Thoth. Okay, because everything starts with them, with that element of fire, and everything ends with them. So they've got the creative vision that sparks the seed, and they also kind of see it all the way through. So the knights are definitely key in the Thoth courts, and in my view, in the way that I kind of read it, and the way that I understand it's meant to be read. And if you look, we see that. I mean, we're talking Earth, so there's still this calmness. There's still this kind of he is the slowest of all the knights. But look at the radiation coming off of his shield there. Look at that environment that he's creating for everyone. So definitely this aspect of using that fire energy in order to create that that environment, that world, that thing that you're looking to create, Jen. And Mars and Capricorns are, once they set their mind on something, true of all the Earth suits, I suppose, but Capricorn, once they've got their mind on something, there is no stopping them. Okay, and you've got that Mars, that fiery Mars energy, just accentuating. So you really get that you're getting the fire and Earth feelings from both of these cards at the end here. So it's all about creativity and Earth. So I mean, to bring it back to your question, Jen, what is the best way forward for me? I see you creating something new, and I see you creating something new, not in like an airy fairy artsy fartsy kind of up in the clouds way, something very tangible, something that you can hold in your hand, something that you can point to and say, that is me, that is mine, I'm proud of myself for doing that. That is what the best way forward for you now is, I think. Andy takes a breath. Okay, let's see what lovely comments I've got here. So okay, so we start off with Oak Mama, I think, saying the reading screams practice makes perfect. Absolutely, it really does. So Midnight Meditations, this is the kind of a larger Thoth deck, but I've trimmed it down to just the images and the bottom titles. Sarah, I see a very strong, rooted, grounded approach that will help lead to a balanced and strong finish. Absolutely. Yep, totally agree. Thank you, Sarah. Eternal Cycles, Tarot by Kate. Can the move forward be something to do with making things legal? That's interesting. Candy's linking the Candy's linking the card in the middle, the blue tinge of the cards, to the colour that Jen is painting our walls just now. That's interesting. Thank you so much, Kate. That's really nice of you to say. It gives me a wee boost. Okay, let me see what time are we on. We're in 1:40. Okay, I'm determined not to run over at all. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes. I'm sure we've got time for another reading. So let's pop these away. Whoops. And let's pull up the next question. So the next question is from the lovely Nerisse at Wiccan222. Okay, Nerissa's question: what are the energies around being able to buy a house at some stage? Okay, so anyone that doesn't know Nerisse or our lovely Jen from Jen's, oh gosh, Jen Science to Soul Tarot and Transformation, please head over and subscribe to their channels. They both have amazing content. If you're lucky, you might be able to find a couple of videos that Nerissa's son Caleb has done. Caleb is, I believe, 9 years old. He might have turned 10 by now. And he's done some walkthroughs of some decks, and seeing the perspective of a 9-year-old on cards, that we as adults look at and can maybe be guilty of intellectualizing sometimes. It's just outstanding and amazing, and hats off to him for doing it. So definitely check out Nerissa's channel, everyone. Okay, what are the energies around being able to buy a house at some point? Okay. So for Nerisse, oh gosh, we've got the devil. So we need to think about, being chained to things, what are we reliant on? We've got that Page of Pentacles coming out again. And we've got the King of Cups coming out there. Okay. So it's interesting that we get a major in quartz when we're comparing the three decks. It's always nice to try and get some minors in there, but hey ho, never mind. This is what we've got. So we've got the devil. So I think right away at the start, we need to think about, what are we chained to? What are we dependent on? What is it that's actually stopping us? Well, I'm saying us. Nerisse, we're reading for you. Let's read for you, shall we? What's actually stopping you from being able to do that right now? Okay. What is those devil chains that are keeping you locked where you are in place just now? Your Page of Coins, looking at his coin there, or pentacles, sorry, looking at his pentacle there, suggests there's probably a financial aspect to it. Okay. But I think the key here is looking at those bonds, looking at those chains, and okay, I've identified what maybe some of the issues are that are stopping me from making that step. Now, what do I do in order to break those chains, break free, break off on my own, and actually be able to do that? So we've got the Page of Pentacles is coming in now. Sure enough, right now, his focus, like I've said before, is very much on that pentacle, But I think the lesson for the Page, the key for him, the thing that he's got to learn to do is take his eye off that pentacle and trust that that is going to be okay. He's actually there's more than just one thing to look at. It's not all about the finances, for example, or it's not all about that one thing that's taking up all of your focus right now. Okay, take your eye off of that and try and kind of keep your eye on the overall bigger picture. And luckily enough, we've got a king coming in at the end there. And like I said before, the kings are all about the social responsibility. They are all about that bigger picture. Okay. Interestingly, no, we don't have like the Knight of Pentacles, who's, really financially savvy. We don't have our Knight of Swords, who's very organized and, everything by the book, all of the legal stuff that's going to be entailed. He'd be your man. We've got the King of Cups coming out. Now, this could suggest one of two things. It might suggest that there's an emotional element to how you need to organize your life, how you need to organize yourself in order to make that step. But also, it might indicate someone else, someone around about you who is going to be able to help you make that step. Okay, so have a look at the people in your life right now. Is there anyone that might fit that description? Someone that you will depend. So, King of Cups, let's have a wee think about what kind of person that is in your life. This is someone who's like an emotional sounding board. You know, when you're upset about something or when you're just not sure how you feel about something, the King of Cups is probably someone that you look to for inspiration as to, you know, how you should feel, how you should act, or, like they will kind of soothe you. You know, their presence will be quite soothing, and their advice will be absolutely sound. So, is there someone around about you like that, or are you being asked to step into those shoes? That is the question. Okay. This will be someone who's comfortable in their emotions. All right. So you can see that he's surrounded by the sea here. His throne is stable. It's concrete, but it's in the middle of the sea. So this is someone who's not scared to take control, not scared to take on that kind of a air element that some of us associate with the king, but still comfortable in that water element, still comfortable in their emotions. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to leave them there. I'm going to have a quick look and see. So we've got. So Neem says you're averaging 20 minutes per session. Perfect. That's good. Fingers crossed. I'll keep my eye on the clock just now and just make sure we don't go over. I'm just glad that I've got enough questions and I'm not going to run out. Hope Mama, I'll admit, Chris, I was expecting a different hour, but loving this practical hands-on. Right, okay, thanks very much, Hope Mama. That's really nice of you to say. Thank you so much. Caleb, can you hear me? Or, sorry, you will be blushing. That's good. Have we got any? Okay, Oak Mama, I think the querent, so I think Nerys isn't seeing something. I think that once you slip out of those chains, you can bring that pentacle to that place where you're in control of these emotions. Okay. Something is holding Nerys back. Right, okay. So there's some thoughts for you, Nerys. Let's see. So next we want to find our devil. So let's pop these up here. Let's stick our devil there. So we've got our devil and the TDM. Let's out our Valet de Dernier. And we want our King of Cups. Okay. So first and foremost, we've got our devil. Now, the devil imagery is really kind of really similar across the two decks. One thing though that always strikes me about most TDM devils, I think, if you look at what he's holding a blade, but there doesn't seem to be a handle. It really calls to mind for me this idea that when you're in that devil energy, when you've kind of got the blinders on and you're maybe being led by perhaps your own desires and not taking into account that kind of a risk assessment, properly consciously thinking things through. Sometimes it leads us to do things where the method is perhaps questionable. There's maybe a very good reason why we're doing them, but we need to think about the method that we're adopting in order to achieve that. Okay. Sometimes we endanger ourselves and those around us. Okay. You look at, he's holding it right above this poor wee chap here, you know. So that's maybe something to think about the TDM devil. Again, we're looking at the courts, we're looking at the valet, and then the king. The valet is looking to the past. He's looking towards the devil, and he's got that pentacle solidly in his hand. His focus is on that and towards this kind of a scene and the devil. So I'm kind of getting these really strong financial vibes from what's happening here. What he doesn't seem to notice is that there's another pentacle down there. Now that's unusual to see, and in a court card we normally have the one thing, the one pentacle, the one cup, whatever it is. But we see another pentacle down here. So what do we think about that? You know, is there maybe a way out? Is there or is there maybe a method that we could adopt that's not abundantly clear right now because of where our focus is? But as soon as we're not focused on that pentacle anymore, you look down at your feet and you think, oh, there's a. I keep saying pentacle. I know it's a coin. Sorry. You look at your feet and you think, oh, there's a big massive coin down there. That's that's quite that'll come in handy. I'll pick that up. Perfect. Now I've got two. You know, um, we've got the valley looking behind, the king looking forward. So again, kind of like I was saying to Jen before the lesson very much seems to be about learning to kind of put that single focus mindset behind you and really kind of take that step back and look at the bigger picture. That is what's going to be key here. And then of course the king is still bringing in that emotional aspect, with his cup there. Very kind of emotionally intelligent as our king of cups. Okay, so perhaps I don't want to say immature because I know Nerys is anything but immature, but some immature mindsets that we might still have, putting them behind you and moving forward and taking up some of that kind of a kingly maturity. And yeah, bringing in that emotional element to it with the king there. Okay, let's see. So Lily, it's amazing. The Page of Pentacles seems to give a pentacle to free the little demons. A negotiation. The King of Cups is not in deviant emotions and sees the right path. Oh, that's amazing. I really, really like that. That idea that the page is giving that penny to free the subjects here. I think that's a really interesting point of view. Thanks very much for that, Lily. And Oak Mama, I'm going to take a nap now to pace myself for tonight. Thanks all. We'll watch the rest on replay by Chris. Thanks. You're so welcome and thank you so much for all your lovely insights, Oak Mama. It's been amazing. Thank you for being here. Nerys says time for adulting. Right, let's quickly pull out the cards from the Thoth. So we've got our princess right here. Let's put them up here. Our princess was in the middle. And then we've got our King of Cups, or our Knight of Cups in this case at the end here. And then we're starting off with our Devil. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this, there's a very phallic representation in the Thoth Devil. So, fair warning, there's a big old phallus in this card. Okay. So having a look here, what struck me right away was the Knight, this Knight of Cups and how he's reaching for that Holy Grail. Okay. So the Princess of Pentacles is concerned with earthly things. Okay, which we all have to be. We all have to be in our, we all have to make sure our earthly world is secure, our material world is secure. If not, then things kind of tend to go a bit tits up, whether we're talking spirituality, whether we're talking whatever. We need to make sure that we've got that strong, stable base to stand from. Okay. So that is what's happening in your Princess of Discs. That is her domain. She's creating, she's starting off, she's, like I say, initiates, new starts. She's creating and building that strong, stable kingdom, that strong, stable base from which to work. But then you've got the Knight of Cups who's bringing something else into the equation. He's reaching for that Holy Grail. He's asking the bigger questions, the questions that perhaps when we're in our princess phase, we don't really think about. If you think about it, going from the Emperor to the Hierophant, the Emperor is very much concerned with earthly matters, with the kingdom, with all of the mundanities of everyday life. It's when we get to the Hierophant that we start thinking about, is there something greater? We start asking those bigger questions, those questions about connection to the divine and all of that. Whatever you might associate with the Hierophant, we normally think about a different connection, and it's something that we just don't see when we're in that kind of that very earthly phase. Princess of Discs or Emperor phase, we don't quite see it yet. Okay, so there is an aspect, and we kind of saw that in the page, the Valley de Dernier, the Page of Coins, and the Marseille. There's something that we're not quite seeing there that's going to be key Once you can pick up on that, once you've kind of discovered what that is your key. That is the way forward. Okay, so there is an avenue there for you, Nerys, but you kind of need to open up your eyes, and it's going to be a process in order to do that. Open up your eyes, inverted commas. I did say they would be back, didn't I? We started out with that devil there. I mean, I think the devil kind of reads quite similarly across, whatever. It talks about that bondage, those connections. Just with the imagery here, we really think about toxic masculinity. Okay, I can't help but pull that from this card because of the very phallic image. Okay, so toxic masculinity. Let's not say too much. Let's just say, don't be guided by those influences, because it's something that's around about all of us. It's something that's in our society. It's something that we have to deal with. But I think the encouragement here is to move away from those influences, from those toxic influences. You are a strong, powerful person, okay, and you can achieve this. Your new home, creating that environment for your family. You can achieve that. Moving away from those toxic influences and really kind of looking for this key that's within your grasp, but just not quite there yet. Okay. Let's see, over on 56. I've actually timed that not bad at all. Let me quickly just look at the chat to see what comments we've got. Okay, so we had Mama going for a nap. Nancy said it's been interesting. Thank you, Nancy. Lily says the devil is a chariot unchained. The princess explains to be anchored before taking the road of pure emotions. Jen's given me my 5-minute warning. Thank you so much, Jen. Sarah from SL Wyman's Rock and Writing, that night sure is getting carried away with emotion. Thanks, Nerys. I'm glad it was meaningful for you, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And Lily, you're very welcome. Thank you so much, Jen. All your lovely comments are really very much appreciated. I'm really sorry that I've not managed to catch all of the comments. I will go back and read them because that's going to be really, really fun for me to do. But yeah, Neem, great job, Taropedia. Thank you, Neem. That's one of my nicknames that I've got from the lovely Neem. Right, okay. I think that is just about coming up. I've got about 3 minutes, so I suppose that will give me some time to introduce the next Tarothonner. So the next person, like I say, is a fellow. Well, Brian actually lives down in England, I believe, just now, but he's from the same neck of the woods as I am. He's from Scotland, and he speaks with a similar Scottish accent to me. So like I say, I think Jen put us troublemakers in the same corner just so she could keep her beady eye on us, But Brian is up next. Brian is an absolute wealth of knowledge. Okay, every time you click onto his channel, whether you fall down the rabbit hole and you're there for hours, or whether you're just there for a quick 5 minutes before you jump out to do something, you will learn something new on Brian's channel. And he dedicates 100% of himself to everything that he does, and you can really kind of see that in his channel and in his videos. He's an absolutely outstanding guy. So please do make your way over to the amazing Brian Cormac Carr's channel. There is a link in the description of my video, if you look down below, to his live stream. So that's going to take you straight there. It's 59 just now. I know there's a delay, which means it's probably just about hitting that 2 o'clock mark. So I'm going to finish up there. That just leaves me to say thank you so much to everyone for being here. I've thoroughly enjoyed having you all. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Tarothon 2021.